بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم حميم والكتاب المبين إنا جعلناه قرآنا عربيا لعلكم تعقلون.
الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with Surah Az-Zukhruf. We started last time, and ayah number 6 from Surah Az-Zukhruf, ayah number 6. Surah number 43, ayah number 6 inshallah. I would recite from 6 to 14 inshallah, then we see what we can cover inshallah. So just following with the recitation. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وكم أرسلنا من نبي في الأولين وما يأتيهم من نبي إلا كانوا به يستهزئون فأهلكنا أشد منهم بطشا ومضى مثل الأولين ولئن سألتهم من خلق السماوات والأرض ليقولن خلقهن العزيز العليم الذي جعل لكم الأرض مهدا وجعل لكم فيها سبلا لعلكم تهتدون والذي نزل من السماء ماء بقدر فأنشرنا به بلدة ميتا كذلك تخرجون والذي خلق الأزواج كلها وجعل لكم من الفلك والأنعام ما تركبون لتستووا على ظهوره ثم تذكروا نعمة ربكم إذا استويتم عليه وتقولوا سبحان الذي سخر لنا هذا وما كنا له مقرنين وإنا إلى ربنا لمنقلبون. We'll take one ayah at a time inshallah. So وكم أرسلنا من نبي في الأولين, and how many a prophet have we sent amongst the men of old. The previous ayah أفنضرب عنكم الذكر صفحا أن كنتم قوما مسرفين, that to show that those who are musrifin, transgressors, evildoers, still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send a messenger to them for the hujjah, for the evidence to be established against them, for the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He does not punish unless a messenger is being sent and the message is conveyed. So after that is being mentioned, then to show for those who turn away from listening to the Quran, turn away from, they don't want to know about the truth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَمْ أَرْسَلْنَا مِن نَبِيٍّ فِي الْأَوَّلِينَ. How many that we had sent from prophets, fil awwalin, from the first, from the past, from those who passed before. So kam is asking a question about how many, and usually that word kam here in this context, as we see, it's a noun that gives the meaning of lots of numbers that we don't know anything about, right? Adad mubham, numbers that it's not. Kam arsalna, then a person will think, okay, how many here? That just, it shows that how many, that means there's so many. This is basically the purpose of this. Even though the Prophet ﷺ said in the authentic hadith there are 124,000 prophets and 300 and something. That's what the Prophet ﷺ said. Bid'un wa thalathuma'ah Rasul, messengers. So, but this is to show the inayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not leave His creation like this without guidance. The messengers have been sent, and the punishment is not to be established among people till the message is conveyed. And either they choose to turn away from it, or they listen to it and they disbelieve in it, or they accept it, and these are the successful ones. So وَكَمْ أَرْسَلْنَا, so this is how many. Well, let's read first the tafsir, inshallah ta'ala, of Imam Sa'di rahimahullah. He says, يقول تعالى, Imam Sa'di says, يقول تعالى, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إن هذه سنتنا في الخلق. This is our sunnah في الخلق. This is our way in the khalq, in the creation of Allah. ألا نتركهم هملا. That we don't leave them hamala. Al-hamal, we talked about the word al-hamal last time, yesterday. He mentioned it before. That means al-hamal are those who are left without being accounted for, left without being protected. Like, again, a shepherd, he leaves his animals like this to go everywhere without taking care of them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not leave his creation hamalan like this without making, of course, without sending the messengers of Allah and the message to be revealed. The same way that they are not hamal, they're not left like that without the provisions of Allah. Everyone is provided for by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The air that we breathe, every breath we take is by the permission of Allah, by the power of Allah. And everything is with precise measurements and creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the same thing when it comes to matters of guidance. Guidance is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the messengers are being sent and the books are revealed. That's what وَكَمْ أَرْسَلْنَا مِن نَبِيٍّ فِي الْأَوَّلِينَ. فَكَمْ أَرْسَلْنَا مِن نَبِيٍّ فِي الْأَوَّلِينَ يَأْمُرُونَهُم. How many messengers have been sent? في الأولين. يأمرونهم بعبادة الله. الأولين is the plural of الأول. Right? That means it refers to all of those who passed before. From the beginning of the creation of Allah, once they needed a messenger, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the messengers to them. And Adam alayhi salam was the first prophet. And then Nuh alayhi salam was the first messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يأمرونهم بعبادة الله وحده لا شريك له. Commanding the people to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. He has no partners. ولم يزل التكذيب موجودا في الأمم. التكذيب, denying the truth, rejecting the truth, is always been present in nations. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the human beings to have a choice. So if they have a choice, that means some will believe and some will disbelieve. This is how things are. So وَلَمْ يَزَلِ التَّكْذِيبُ مَوْجُودًا فِي الْأُمَمِ. And then وَمَا يَأْتِيهِم مِّن نَبِيٍّ. So this is وَكَمْ أَرْسَلْنَا مِن نَبِيٍّ فِي الْأَوَّلِينَ. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ ضَلَّ قَبْلَهُمْ أَكْثَرُ الْأَوَّلِينَ. They have been deviated from before them. Most of the awwalin, most of those who were before in the, from the beginning of time. And this is the ways that giving the tasliyah, the comfort to the Prophet ﷺ, and warning those who are present that you're not something new. It's been already the case. And what happened to the nations before, they have been informed, and the matter is a continuous one. As always mentioned, when we read the Quran, you would find clearly nothing new among humanity. Human beings are the same human beings. Nothing changed. From the time of Adam alayhi salam till today. As far as the nature of the human beings, they're not more sophisticated now, as some people might think. They're nothing exactly. Adam alayhi salam, prophet of Allah. Like Nuh alayhi salam, a messenger of Allah and a prophet of Allah, more sophisticated than everyone on the face of earth. So it's the human beings are the same. So it's the worldly things, physical matters, and all of these things. Has nothing to do with the intellect and the understanding of the human beings. So the matter is a continuous one. Then after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا يَأْتِيهِمْ مِن نَبِيٍّ إِلَّا كَانُوا بِهِ يَسْتَهْزِئُونَ. This is how the messengers have been sent. And now, وَمَا يَأْتِيهِمْ مِن نَبِيٍّ. And there's no prophet. Let me read the translation. And never came there a prophet to them, but they used to mock at him. He says here, Imam Sa'di rahimahullah, جَحْدًا لِمَا جَاءَ بِهِ. Al-juhud is denying after knowing the truth. And that's why those who make mockery usually are those who have no arguments to present. So the only way that they can reject the truth is by making mockery of it. And that's why the believers, they're away from making mockery. They want people to invite them to the seriousness of the matter of the truth. The Prophet ﷺ did not make mockery of anyone. He conveyed the truth to them. they're the ones that would make mockery of it. If they have something, they should present it. So إلا كانوا به يستهزئون, whether it's because of his looks, his tall, short, from this place or that place, look what he's saying. And actually, till today, many people, they get deceived by this. Someone doesn't have any argument, so they say, look at this foolishness that they're saying, and that's it. Okay, if you continue, say, what is this foolishness? And with evidences and so on. But just to say that that affects some other people, especially for those who are weak and so on. So جحدا لما جاء به, not because they are upon something, but to deny the truth. وتكبرا على الحق, الاستهزاء is a sign of arrogance, having arrogance against the حق that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed. وما يأتيهم من نبي إلا كانوا به. And this sentence actually, it's like their state, the state of the awwalin, like the hal, the state of those who came from the beginning. They are in that state of making mockery of the truth. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فأهلكنا أشد منهم بطشا ومضى مثل الأولين, which means then we destroyed men stronger in power than these, and the example of the ancients has passed away before them. So he says here, فأهلكنا أشد, we destroyed, and that's فأهلكنا means أشد, those who are more stronger in power. من هؤلاء, from those who are present, from those who are present at the time of the Prophet ﷺ in general. And again, this is one of the things that human beings, every nation comes, every generation comes, they think that they are the strongest ever. And this is true. This is not true, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that every nation, فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُم مَا عَرَفُوا فَرِحُوا بِمَا عِندَهُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ, they become rejoice in state of joy because of what they have of knowledge. They think that no one ever like that before. And this is all from the ways of Iblis, so that people don't humble themselves to the truth. So فأهلكنا أشد منهم بطشا, we destroy those who are stronger than them. بطشا, al-batsh is the actual hitting of something with very strong power that destroys. So they were more stronger, أي قوة وأفعالا وآثارا في الأرض. They have more strength, more actions, and آثارا, they affected. Al-athar is when someone, when he leaves something behind. So they left things on the earth to show how much powerful they were and things like this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed them. And one of the clear examples is Fir'aun and his people, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed them and make them all drowned. And till today, the athar and what's left after Fir'aun, it's there for people to see how much powerful they were. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed them. And the same thing of Diyar Thamud, where they would make their homes in the mountains, carve it, and so on. فأهلكنا أشد منهم بطشا ومضى مثل الأولين. الأولين is mentioned again. ومضى مثل الأولين. مضى, that means past. The parable, the example of الأولين, the first. أي مضت أمثالهم وأخبارهم. Their أمثال, their parables, their likings, all of that had passed. وأخبارهم, and what we have been informed about them, the أولين, the nations before. وبينا لكم منها ما فيه عبرة, and we made clear to you what's in it of the عبرة, the lessons to be learned. ومزدجر, المزدجر, from to push people away from the evil by these stories, by the mention of these nations. عن التكذيب والإنكار, so that you don't deny the truth and you don't make mockery of it, which is الإنكار is to forbid the truth. ومضى مثل الأولين, and مثل الأولين is like سنة الأولين, the way of the أولين, as Qatada and others they said, and some said the عقوبة of the أولين. مثل الأولين is the punishment of the أولين. مثل الأولين, the عبرة from the أولين. All these meanings are from مثل الأولين. What's the مثل? Is the example, is the parable. What is to be learned from the أولين, from the early nations? Is to take lessons from what happened to them, is the punishment that happened to them, and their ways. Their ways are the same ways. أكفاركم, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, addressing the people of Quraysh and addressing the people today at all times. أكفاركم خير من أولئكم أم لكم براءة في الزبر. Is your kuffar better than those who were kuffar before? Or you have a free, that you're freed from the punishment, and it's written in the Zubur, in the books before, that you will be saved and you will be successful and so on, enter the Jannah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the kuffar is the kuffar. It's the same thing. It's by their amal, by their actions. So the amal is the same. They followed them in the same actions. So they would receive the same fate of everyone else. So وَمَضَى مَثَلُ الْأَوَّلِينَ. Here what's very important to understand here, as he mentioned, is we made them ibra for you. Why the awwaleen are mentioned today, why we're reading about the awwaleen, the nations before, so that the people would take the lesson from it, so that they would avoid what is the means of their destruction and to be upon what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from them. As it's going to be mentioned in the end, towards the end of the surah, فَجَعْنَاهُمْ سَلَفًا وَمَثَلًا لِلْآخِرِينَ. As the people of Fir'aun and so on. فَجَعْنَاهُمْ سَلَفًا. Salaf is the nations from before, like Salaf al-Salih, the rightly guided early generations of Islam. So we made them Salaf. They passed. وَمَثَلًا لِلْآخِرِينَ, and an example for those who come later. So, and that's why every single story mentioned in the Quran, if a person does not take the lesson of how to act now, then he's not learning the Quran in the proper way, because the matter is a repeated one. The sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the same. So وَمَضَى مَثَلُ الْأَوَّلِينَ. And this is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many verses, سُنَّةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي قَدْ خَلَتْ فِي عِبَادِهِ. The way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that already had passed in His ibad. Took that in Surah Ghafir. وَلَنْ تَجِدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَبْدِيلًا وَلَنْ تَجِدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَحْوِيلًا. No change in the way of Allah. So this is why the Quran is as if it's revealed today. That's why the person has to hold fast to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So وَكَمْ أَرْسَلْنَا مِن نَبِيٍّ فِي الْأَوَّلِينَ, to show the numbers. So many have been sent. وَمَا يَأْتِيهِم مِّن نَبِيٍّ. This is now the continuity of things. The matter is a continuous one. From one, every time a messenger is being sent, this is what happened. وَمَا يَأْتِيهِم مِّن نَبِيٍّ إِلَّا كَانُوا بِهِ يَسْتَهْزِئُونَ. They would make mockery of him. فَأَهْلَكْنَا. So as a result of that, that's the fate. That's the end of things. We destroyed أَشَدَّ مِنْهُمْ بَطْشًا. Those who had more batsh. And the batsh, again, as we said, someone that doesn't care. He punishes, he destroys, he kills, he do whatever he wants to do because he thinks that he's safe from punishment. So without any consideration of anything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed those who were even worse than them. وَمَضَى مَثَلُ الْأَوَّلِينَ. And the example of the awwaleen passed, but only for the people of ذوي الألباب, the people of reason, those who would benefit from what is being revealed in the Quran. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَئِن سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ لَيَقُولُنَّ خَلَقَهُنَّ الْعَزِيزُ الْعَلِيمُ. And indeed, if you ask them who has created the heavens and the earth, they will surely say the Almighty, the Unknower created them. So this is now the ayat talks about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the things that the people, they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you ask these mushrikeen, now the ayat doesn't necessarily address everyone. Some verses will address the mushrikeen, those who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they associate partners with Allah, like the people of Quraysh and most of the disbelievers on the face of earth, most of them, because those who disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're the weird people among the human being. This is all arrogance and stubbornness and has nothing to do with, this is not someone, even as we mentioned before, it's not someone to debate or to talk to. It's something out of this people's senses. So, but most of the disbelief on the face of earth is shirk. Associate partners with Allah, having distorted beliefs. So the mushrikeen of the people of Quraysh, and the same thing, they share the same shirk with everyone else, is that they would associate partners with Allah, whether it's in His rububiyyah or in His uluhiyyah or His names and attributes, to get them closer to Allah, as it's mentioned in the Quran. So if you ask them, وَلَئِن سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, who created the heavens and the earth, لَيَقُولُنَّ خَلَقَهُنَّ الْعَزِيزُ الْعَلِيمُ. They would say, indeed, the one that created that is Al-Aziz Al-Alim. They know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's the Almighty, the Unknower subhanahu wa ta'ala. So He says here, يُخْبِرُ تَعَالَى عَنِ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. This is about the mushrikeen. أَنَّكَ لَوْ سَأَلْتَهُم, that if you ask them, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, who created the heavens and the earth, لَا يَقُولُنَّ, for sure they would say, Allah وَحْدَهُ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has no partners in this. They don't say that Allah has partners in the creation. He created the heavens and the earth. Al-Aziz, الذي دانت لعزته جميع المخلوقات. Al-Aziz, the one that the Almighty. Danat from ad-din, even they everything humbled and everything is in state of submission to the might of Allah. He's Al-Aziz subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the very first meaning that comes into one's understanding when you hear the name of Al-Aziz is الذي لا يغلب, the one that never can defeat him. Right? So he's the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one can defeat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. الذي دانت لعزته, that everything with the izzah of Allah humbled in state of submission. جميع المخلوقات, all of the creation of Allah. Al-Alim, the unknower, بظواهر الأمور وبواطنها, the knowledge that encompasses everything, the apparent things, the inward things. أوائلها وأواخرها. No, بظواهر الأمور وبواطنها وأوائلها وأواخرها. The first of things, the last of things. فإذا كانوا مقرين بذلك, and they know what the meaning of Al-Alim, in the sense that no one is like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encompasses everything. So if they were muqirrin, they acknowledge that and they believe in this, فكيف يجعلون له الولد والصاحبة? How can they make to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala son and a صاحبة, wife, والشريك, and a partner? وكيف يشركون به من لا يخلق ولا يرزق ولا يميت ولا يحيي? How can they associate partners with Allah, those who do not create and they do not provide and they don't give life or death? So that's why the kuffar praise the kuffar of Quraysh, of course. They were even smarter than the kuffar of many of the kuffar nowadays. The kuffar of Quraysh, they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He's the Rabb. He's the Lord of the Alameen. And they, whenever they're in dire need, as it's mentioned in the Quran, فإذا ركبوا في الفلك دعوا الله مخلصين له الدين. Whenever they are in the ocean, in the ship, they would turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, when he asked the man, he have 7 that he worship. واحد في السماء, 1 in the heavens, and 6 the idols, images that he worship. So he asked him, who's the one that you turn to when you are in dire need? He said, the one in the heavens. So these ones on the earth, these idols and these images, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stated, and we took that before, they said themselves, ما نعبدهم إلا ليقربونا إلى الله زلفى. We only worship them so that they can get us closer to Allah. So even someone might see from that they want the pleasure of Allah. By seeking these intercessions or worshipping these, the wrong intercession, of course, by worshipping these righteous people and the images of the righteous people, seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, which as we see here, this is how when the shirk is all about this, most of the people are upon shirk. They would say, we believe in Allah, that He's the creator, He's the sustainer. So when you go to a grave of a dead person and you ask him besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these are righteous people, these are people that has blessings in this spot. So we ask them to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as they would ask them when they were alive. What's the difference between that and between the people of Quraysh when they would go to Allat wal Uzza? They were individuals alive. If they go to them during their lifetime, and they would say, Allat is the one that can aylut as-sawiq. He used to be a very generous man, that he would make the date paste for the people coming for Hajj. So after he died, they built this image for him. If, say, for example, he was a righteous person and he was someone that is upon the Tawheed, for example, and they would go to him when he was alive, and they would say to him, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us and things like this. That's nothing wrong with that. But it's after he died, they worshipped him besides Allah, and they made a dua to the dead. Of course, the people of Quraysh, they were not saying to him to ask Allah, they would ask him directly. They would ask Allat wal Uzza, like this, believing in them. But the creation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of the heavens and the earth. So the ayah here says, وَلَئِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ لَا يَقُولُنَّ خَلَقَهُنَّ الْعَزِيزُ الْعَلِيمُ. They would say that indeed the one that created the heavens and the earth is Al-Aziz Al-Alim. And even the combination between both, the Almighty, because this is mighty creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and no one can defeat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's the unknower because of all of this creation of Allah. He's the creator. He created it from nothing before. That means He knows, His knowledge encompasses everything. And then one last ayah inshallah ta'ala, and then we continue later. الذي جعل لكم الأرض مهدا. Who is العزيز العليم? الذي جعل لكم الأرض مهدا وجعل لكم فيها سبلا لعلكم تهتدون. So this ayah, the one that who has made for you the earth like a bed and has made for you roads therein in order that you may find your way. So الذي جعل لكم الأرض مهدا, the one that made the earth for you مهدا, فراشا, like a place for you to be able to walk and sleep and function. You don't fall on your face every time you walk on the face of earth. So he says here ثم ذكر أيضا من الأدلة الدالة على كمال نعمته. He mentioned here another evidences to show the perfect favor of Allah واقتداره and the power of Allah بما خلقه لعباده, by what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created for his ibad. من الأرض التي مهدها, from this earth that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it there ready. Al-mahd is when you prepare the cradle or the bed for the newly born child. You make sure that it's comfortable and nice. So مهدها وجعلها قرارا, made it well established for العباد. يتمكنون فيها من كل ما يريدون. They're able to do on the face of earth everything that they want. They will be able to do it on the face of earth. وجعل لكم فيها سبلا, and he made for you subul, paths on the earth. أي جعل منافذ. المنفذ is what makes you go from one place to the other through something. بين سلاسل الجبال, between the chains of mountains. المتصلة, that is connected. تنفذون منها إلى ما ورائها من الأقطار, make you go through it to what's behind it from الأقطار. الأقطار جمع قطر, lands and provinces. لعلكم تهتدون, so that you have guidance في السير, guidance in knowing where to go from point A to point B. في الطرق, in the path. ولا تضيعون, and you don't get lost. ولعلكم أيضا تهتدون في الاعتبار, since you need guidance to go from one place to the other, also you need to be guided في الاعتبار بذلك, to learn from this that Allah created this for you. That means guidance is by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. بالاعتبار بذلك والادكار فيه, الادكار from التذكر, to have the remembrance of it. And that's why everything that is created physically has to have its effect religiously. So even when people travel, they remember the traveling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're all in a journey. How a person seek guidance to make sure that he knows exactly what he needs. All of that is also even more when it comes to the matters of deen and how to be grateful to Allah and how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. This will be continued inshallah ta'ala with more, and it's all continued with that means the context has to be recognized inshallah. But we'll stop here inshallah ta'ala because of the time.